Hi, everyone. We are just going to start.
Okay.
Um, so we are really happy to see all of you here, and I would like to put, just let you know that we cannot share just right from the start. We cannot share contact information, but we do have this WhatsApp group. So if y'all would like to join the WhatsApp group, it's easier to communicate through that. Um, and our this is our agenda for today. We're gonna I'm gonna start talking about all the community initiated events that we have, and then the events that were initiated by the board, the collaborations with other chapters and organizations, and then given the current political environment, the need for fundraising, ways that we would like you all to participate or you can participate, and what our plans are for the future. And then we will go into the breakout rooms. So hopefully this will be quick so we can get to the breakout rooms quickly. So this was our chai chats have been one of our most popular events. And this was the one in DC. And there's Lauren. His camera's not working
At the end of the table with a gray hair and a smile, almost.
there. This was initiated by Mahima and Kyle. Um, and then we also had a chai chat in. We have one coming up in New York, and that's on April 26th. And Alexa Bernstein, who is also a community member, she will be organizing that one. The film festival was initiated by Carlin, and because she wanted to share her work, and that is something that we are really looking for is your requests and to see how we can create this platform for your work, to share your work, and for for all of us to collaborate. For the film festival, we received 17 applications, and we are in the process of selecting 10 that will be featured in the film festival. And Jeffrey, who's with us today, is one of the people on our in our selection committee, and he and Corlin have been working really intensively to pull this together. The movies, we're going to select 10 movies, and they will be available for viewing 3 weeks before and up to May 3rd. The panel discussions will be on May 3rd, and then we're on to the next one. So these are some of the board initiatives. These are also chai chats. There that had a chai chat in South Florida on March 8th, and then there was one in Pittsburgh by another board member on January 18th. And then for the mother language celebration in February, which was another board initiative, we posted excerpts and recitations of Indian heritage language texts. We also celebrated heritage languages by collaborating with other organizations and chapters. Monica Lakwani is here, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Monica, but I think, did we do anything with you? Um, we did with the Pittsburgh chapter. Um,
Not as yet. We've been in
Um,
contact to do future collaborations. I know I submitted something for your mother language event, but I'd love to do something with you all.
Perfect. Uh, and we really enjoy doing that too. So for collaborations with other chapters, we did a Pongal Sangamam on January 18 with the Pittsburgh chapter, and I apologize, I didn't get pictures of that. That was an amazing event. Um, and and then with the LA chapter, did we prepared 100 care packages for first responders fighting the fires in Los Angeles. And additional service days are being planned with the LA chapter, one in June and one in October. There is an international fiesta on April 15th that we're collaborating with the Mississippi chapter on. And then we have a women in film panel discussion that we're working on with the New York chapter. That's going to be a hybrid 2-day cross-border event. And one day will be in New York and one day will be in India. So that's taking a little bit of work to pull together, but that should be very, very interesting. We're hoping to have some very um, it's a couple of directors who have a lot of experience and should have some very good stories. And so from the Pongal Sangamam, sorry, kind of tripping over that, we got this painting that we will be auctioning, but we are also with the current political climate, we need to be a lot more self-reliant and independent to keep this community together. And in addition to advocating for the Fulbright community and for Fulbright programs, we will have to start doing some fundraising. On the left, we just had the advocacy day. I think Lauren, was it on Wednesday or Thursday?
Yes, it was on the 12th. I did not attend. I had a conflict on the schedule, but I've done many of them. And I also advise that I have access to the congressional delegation otherwise, if requested.
Okay. So we will, and advocacy will continue through the beginning of May. Everyone should have received an email from Fulbright about the April letter writing campaign. And details are available at, so there, that's the letter writing toolkit is available at that link, at the first link. And then we have, as far as our auction of that painting, that is, you can go to galabid.com and the process is explained there. And then we are also accepting contributions at our fundraise up page that was set up by National for Us. So there are different ways that you can be a part of our community. You can join us as a writing mentor. There's a form there. You can fill that out. We would love to get this program started. There are a lot of people in India who have actually requested this help. And there are people in the States too who need help, and the different options are indicated. You can host a Fulbright grantee, especially now with their funding having been frozen, although some Funds are beginning to trickle, are being given to some grantees, but very, very small amounts. You can help us plan the Climate Change Caucus. That's a big one. We really need a lot of help with that. This form was created by Kyle Patel, one of our community members. And I know there's interest. We just need help pulling it together. You can, next month, there will be the board. You can join, sorry, I'm tripping up, but there, you will get an email about the option to join the board as a board member or as an officer, and we should have some positions on our board coming up. I think we might have like 3 or 4 openings, and we could definitely use a treasurer. We also need help with communications, and that would also appreciate help with website management. So if you can help, even you don't even have to be a board member, you can just help us with these tasks. It would make our communication especially much better. You can also be featured, and you can share your stories through the FIG feature. And we can, this is the form that you need to fill out, and it's on our social media pages too. Is that right, Nuja? Okay.
Sorry, what was that again?
Is this on the way that they can, is this up on our social media pages so that people can join?
The feature?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay. All right. Wait, where did my cursor go? You can be a part of our artist presentation series. Our last, the second artist in our series was Jordan Lamotte, and we had just an incredible introduction to Kafkari. Our next speaker is going to be Jake Chantal, and he is actually going to talk about how he uses origami. I know origami is not an Indian craft, but he uses that in the most fascinating way to explain his work and his Fullbright project also. And then you can host a chai chat or participate. We don't have, other than the one in New York, we haven't got any more scheduled at the moment. But if you'd like to host one, we can help you pull it together by with some funding, hopefully, and also by connecting you with the people in your area. And that,
Ms. Watson,
yes.
the Washington group that got together, I think we were 12 or 14. I don't remember. Not everybody was in that photo. It seemed very successful, and there was general talk. It was organized by younger members. I should know their names off the top of my head, but I do not. And so while I was an underwriter and helper in that sense, it was great participation. Lots of new information was being exchanged, and there was a general thought that we might do it quarterly, but no action yet has been taken to formalize that. Full stop.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, that was Mahima and Kyle. They were from the 22 cohort. We also, sorry. Okay. And now on to why we're all here today for the breakout rooms. So these are our hosts for each of the 6 breakout rooms. Elizabeth is, and I'll just give you very brief introductions to them. Elizabeth is a creative writer. She's an essayist and fiction writer, and she has a background in journalism. She often explores research-intensive topics. She's also a nonfiction editor at New England Review, specializing, in personal reported essays, and she's on the faculty at Penn State. Nirja is a postdoctoral scholar at UCLA in the Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine. She spent her Fullbright grant in Bombay in 22 with a focus on genetics. Her research includes using facial analysis technology for the detection of Down syndrome and assessing the gut microbiome of individuals affected by Konzo, a distinct neurological condition. She's one of the reasons definitely why Fullbright needs to continue to be funded. We make a huge difference to the world around us. Presently, she is researching the mechanisms behind genetic conditions with a specific interest in Boring-Opitz syndrome. Sorry if I'm messing that up, Nirja, which is a rare neurodevelopmental condition. Mike Benvenia is an artist. He's currently in Philadelphia and works at Rowan University as a studio manager and adjunct professor. His artwork is interested in exploring Unani medicine, jugaad, and history through drawing, found objects, fabrication, and stained glass. Saket is a JD candidate at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, has a background in research and policy analysis. As a Fulbright scholar in Delhi, he studied youth civic engagement habits, exploring how young people participate in governance and advocacy. Alexa is an A&R administrator at Sony Music Masterworks. She manages 14 live businesses under the Masterworks Live umbrella. During her Fulbright grant in Chennai, she studied Carnatic music and how Carnatic training impacted professional music careers. And Saransh is a Brooklyn-based writer, marketer, and artist manager exploring the intersection of social impact and effective communication. As a content writer at the social enterprise Free Will, he crafts fundraising communications for 200 plus nonprofits. During his Fulbright in India, he researched how digital technologies are democratizing the local independent music ecosystem. He's also the author of Soundstorm, a book of essays analyzing the business and ethics of the music industry. So those are your hosts. And I'm just going to play this very short video clip. So this was something I encountered on my very last day of my grant in Jodhpur. And it's an introduction to what we will be discussing in the breakout rooms today. Saket defined this as jugaad diplomacy, applying Indian innovation to global challenges. Now, jugaad is a way of life in India. It is in the DNA of most Indians, much to the consternation of my children sometimes. According to the OED, it is the process of using limited resources innovatively for solving problems. Now, is that a viable approach for tackling global challenges? Are there simple solutions to complex problems? Could issues related to climate change, armed conflicts, food insecurity, etc., be resolved through Jugaad? Have you seen or used Jugaad in your own work? Can it be applied to any work sphere? And is it always a good thing, or can there be downsides to the practice? So, in the when we go into breakout rooms, y'all can discuss this, and you can take your post Fulbright experiences as a basis for this discussion, and use the premise of Jugaad diplomacy to discuss how the mindset could be used to tackle global challenges generically, or even a specific challenge if your group decides to. Monica just shared a new update from IIE. Monica, do you want to just read it out?
Yeah, I was just reading it myself. It came in through our Fulbright. But basically, I'll put the link in there for you all as well. It says that the administration has furloughed individuals, and it's the IIT members who actually work on the ECA funded programs such as Fulbright, Gilman, and Humphreys. So these effective March 14th, there's going to be many organizations that are going to have furloughs. Let me stick that in there for you all.
Is that the equivalent of our 2-week temporary pause in funding that's already going into like over a month?
Yeah, I think this is, I don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that that it's going to be a further delay.
Yeah.
It looks like this is just sad. Everything's happening so fast that this is just so sad. But I just in there.
I'm a Fulbright scholar liaison at Drexel University, and the liaisons just all got across the U.S. an email from IIE, probably part of this, saying that they have had to reduce staff and giving us a different email to use if we have an emergency. And I don't know if you guys probably maybe have read it or know about it, but one thing that's been hit is international Fulbright students had their monthly stipends cut directly. And, it depends on which country they're from and what arrangement IIE has with that country. So, for example, I know of a Black South African student whose stipend was cut by 75%. So universities are struggling to come up with emergency funds for those students because they use that money every month to pay their rent and utility bills and things. But the Fulbright Scholar for Faculty, U.S. Research and Teaching Awards is still fully funded as of now and proceeding as usual.
Oh, well, that's good to know. At least some money is still going out there. Yeah, but I think it's very callous.
Yes.
Stop, basic funding. But it was pretty similar to what happened with the COVID funding also, where we were just told, well, this is it, no more. And people were relying on that money for the 3 months that we were supposed to be back. Hey, Miriam. You are also in Renalini, yes.
Yes. Sorry to join late, but I'm just catching up.
So, can we get some feedback from the different breakout rooms? I think we probably have everybody here who, Alexa, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share. So I was in a breakout room with Betty and with Jeffrey. And so it was interesting, our connections. So I had a background in music, and I had done research about Carnatic music and the relationship to the modern, like the commercial music industry. And so that was my background. Betty had done work in international relations, and Jeffrey had done work in Bengali film theater, and kind of political relations involving the arts. And so it was a cool group to connect and share. We talked about our experiences and how we each kind of went during different time periods and had really wonderful experiences. Betty and I talked about how much we enjoyed traveling across India while we were on the Fulbright and visiting different places besides just the place that we were based. And we both worked with like universities while we were there. So I know I did some teaching and that kind of thing. Then we talked about Betty and I talked about staying in touch with friends and colleagues from the program and how the program itself made us want to share with others just how fabulous of an experience it was. Then in terms of connecting to Jugaad diplomacy, we were talking about just ways that we were kind of making the most of our time there and our resourcefulness. So Jeffrey gave an anecdote about his research and different resources and advice he had been given from different people, and how ultimately Fulbright had the Fulbright staff advised to go to the National Library and to get resources, and how then ultimately he was able to get a lot of research materials to work with for now the book that he's working on. And then I also talked about my experiences working in the music industry and how I wanted to bring back information from my Fulbright and apply that to the modern music or the commercial music industry in the US. And how I was kind of making the most with the resources that my company had in the US. And now I helped develop now a division that works on Indian releases in the US and Canada, based here out of New York, working very closely with our India teams based in Mumbai and Chennai. Yeah, and then we further went into a discussion about the political impact of theater, film, and TV. It was specifically Jeffrey's experiences in Kolkata. And yeah, that was our conversation.
Thank you, Alexa. Sake, do you want to go next? I thought I saw you.
Yeah, I had a really interesting meeting with Dr. Rahul Jindal. I wrote a little something, so this might sound a little formal, but he gave me a bunch of papers to look at while we were discussing. So I'm just going to get into a little bit of this, who he is and what he did with this Fulbright. So Rahul, he's a surgeon. He's a transplant surgeon, and he's done a lot of amazing work with kidney and pancreas transplants in particular. He was also the first person, I think, from to do a living kidney transplant in Guyana, which is a South American country. And he has worked extensively at Walter Reed, the same hospital that the president goes to, the VA in DC. But his program or his work that he did on his Fulbright, of which he's had 3 in 2016, 2020, and the last one in 2024, it's focused on making surgery more accessible to low-income areas. And he has this program called Sati, the Sati Initiative. And the whole idea is that he trains local healthcare workers within slum communities, specifically in Ahmedabad right now. And he trains them to guide potential patients through what kind of symptoms they might be having, and then connecting them with local doctors, and then eventually bigger hospital units to cut down on the fear and overall lack of accessibility that a lot of people in slum areas have in getting the life-saving kind of care that they need. And although we didn't directly connect this idea to the idea of, or his work to the idea of Jugaad, I kind of I was thinking about my own work and how I was trying to understand why Indians as a whole, but a lot of young folks in general come out to vote in the numbers that they do. And a lot of it comes from incentive-based voting, where they're given some kind of incentive by a political party to participate. And that oftentimes leads to a lack of representation for people that don't have wealth within the community. And the type of work that Rahul is doing is exactly the type of antidote that needs to happen, where you're actually taking members of the community and providing them with the resources and education to reach out to their own community and get them connected to the things that they need. So I think he's doing the stuff that's will make for a really deep reform into the future. And you know, it was a pleasure speaking with him.
Thank you. That's absolutely, you're right. Very important work being done. Thank you, Dr. Jindal and Saket for sharing that. And
I
Alexa.
just wanted to share my article with Scott. We wrote in the Transplant Chronicle, not Transplant, Fullbright Chronicle, is a commentary in the second issue of the, so something interesting people might want to read. So very short, 1,000 words about being in Ahmedabad during COVID.
Oh, okay. So, Dr. Jindal, are you still in India or are you back in?
No, I'm here. I'm here in Washington, D.C., Silver Spring. So I got three. One was in 2016, then 2020, and then 2024 on the same project. And I was very lucky that that's my hometown as well, Ahmedabad. So I could go and stay in my family house, although my parents have passed away. But a lot of colleagues, friends growing up in the same place. When you go back to the same place and then do the work.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And
a
that's,
unique experience.
yes.
And now our work has been funded internationally. So we started the work. You know, Fulbright doesn't pay for a lot of these things, for the salaries. And I was paying it through a foundation I created, 503c in the US for 8 years. But now an international foundation based in London, they saw press reports of my work and they decided to fund it to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So,
That's excellent. Good to know that, you know, the work continues. Yes. Saransh, would you like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in a group with Bruce and Monica, and we had a really wonderful conversation. Started out with introductions and kind of drawing connections across our experiences. So I mentioned that I have a performance background in Hindustani classical music, and Monica is currently learning the sitar. And I was based in Hyderabad, and Bruce spent extensive time in Hyderabad and actually was there in 1967 when the last Nizam of Hyderabad passed away, which was this like really crucial historical inflection point. So started with those introductions. And in terms of Jagad, we kind of talked about it as inherently related to open-mindedness, curiosity, relationship building, kind of like meaningful memory making without guards up. And we discussed how it relates to or is like particularly conducive to certain industries or spaces. Bruce talked about how in journalism, it's a really important mindset to embody since it's so much about keeping your eyes open and being curious and looking around. And you can often have one interest that leads to another if you just follow that path. Monica discussed how it's important in education, given that there are a lot of constraints with funding and time, and how it's just an inherently collaborative space. She also mentioned how it relates to the environmental space in the Philippines. And I talked about its connection to arts and culture because I think in the creative process, oftentimes like your inspiration precedes like structure or resources that you might have. So it's beneficial to just get something on the page and use whatever resources you have to kind of create momentum. And a lot of the independent artists who I interviewed when I was in India kind of demonstrated this. Some of them only had a laptop and a mic, and they managed to reach global audiences with these limited resources. Um, and then finally, we also talk about how the concept can apply in our personal lives as well, and how in India there's the spirit of social generosity and openness where people kind of come together to help each other out, and how that could be beneficial in a more individualistic society in the US as well. Just that idea of working together towards a shared goal, whether it's personal or professional. But yeah, feel free to add anything on, Monica or Bruce, if I missed something, but that was our discussion.
Thank you. That it's a very critical idea there that, yeah, you have to be open-minded. And I think that's just the whole point of Jagar, really, being able to bring different, like thinking out of the box and bringing different solutions into our problems. Or it doesn't even have to be a problem, it's just a different way of looking at things. Nirja?
Well, it was just Deodat and me in the room, so we kind of went rogue and we just talked science. And he gave me advice about my career.
Excellent.
Yep.
You went rogue.
We did go rogue a little bit. Yep.
So both for those who don't know, both Nirja and Deodat are board members, and Lauren and Xavier are our other board members. I don't see. Oh, Lauren, sorry, the light is just directly in my eyes today. Okay, well, that was short and sweet. Who is here who is on either Mike or Elizabeth's? Anesh?
Nest.
A nest, sorry.
That's all right. It's easy to remember. It's like a bird's nest without the T, a nest.
Okay, all right.
Elizabeth and we actually met at the Fullbright conference in Delhi in 2022. And so we were reconnecting after a good chunk of time and both spoke about the books we were working on. We've been working on those same books respectively since that time, and kind of how they have shifted in one regard in genre or in style. As well as we spoke a lot about how our multiple trips to India have informed our creative writing. And we were looking at Jugad as flexibility that is required as a writer, where, I think it was mentioned earlier, you have limited resources. So how can you reach an intended audience with, your sensory, like your eyes, your observations, a pen and paper or a laptop. And sometimes that's, you have to convey so much with your words. So how do you incorporate the unexpected, which there's often a lot of very unexpected elements into your own writing? And then I wanted to ask, in terms of the chai chats, if you're interested in organizing one, who should one contact in order to do so? You? Okay.
Me. I'll talk to you. And Sherilyn is also in Las Vegas, so you're both at the same university, if I'm not mistaken. So she's a board member. She's had stuff she couldn't attend, but she was in DC for the advocacy day too, and she's an amazing person. So yeah, we'll definitely work on that.
Thank you.
I could drop into that one pretty easily. It's only a 4-hour ride away. Thank you, Ines. And then, and actually, Elizabeth had introduced me to the concept of looking at, well, we were all together there in 22, and she talked about how you look for what isn't there when she was doing her research. And I think that is a very important, it's something that I've carried with me, is not just looking at what we see, but look for what's missing. And I think that's what she was looking at for when she was looking for the statues that she was researching, which was very cool, very cool. And is anybody here from Mike's group?
Yeah, Lauren was in Mike's group.
Excellent, Laura.
It was kind of an unusual match. Since he was there, I think 2019 till COVID hit,
Right.
and we compared notes on various parts of our experience. So one was that we're not going in chronological order of the discussion, that the orientation was 3 days. I said, well, that's interesting. 21 of us flew into Delhi, flew up to Kashmir, 5 days a week for 3 weeks. And we got scattered around the country to our assignments to do independent research and teach English language skills. We didn't go into all the detail. He is in the, I call it the arts and crafts. He used a slightly different phrase, as a sculptor studying sculpture and metallurgy in particular. So I told an anecdote related to visiting Bamiyan Valley and seeing the standing Buddhas, and how quite amazing it was in 1969 to see those Buddhas who were then destroyed 30 years later, roughly 31, by the Taliban, and that related to the sculpture theme. So we covered some interesting ground. I think one of the challenges I feel being part of FIG is the generational differences. It's a personal feeling. It's intellectual, it's social, it's about values, and it's about the making and shaping the way we conduct ourselves individually as a group and obviously as a nation state. So I'll leave it at that as my report on the group discussion with Mike. We didn't go rogue.
Oh, well, you know what? It's actually this generational difference is also, I find, um, a blessing because it's like living in a multi-generational family, like a lot of Indian families used to be, where you learn to be empathetic and learn from the values and lessons of previous generations. So, and I learn a lot from my children, not only because they tell me that I don't know anything, but because I genuinely do learn from their experiences and their wisdom. They come into this world with a lot of wisdom that I seem to have missed. So, yeah, I'm glad you had that conversation. Xavier and Miriam, would y'all like to, share something? I know y'all weren't part of a specific breakout room. Just as a quick introduction to Xavier and Miriam, Xavier is a board member, and he's the one who initiated our conversation about climate change and having a climate change caucus, especially one that will cover topics that are relevant to South Asia. And Lauren's a part of that conversation. And Miriam is actually part of the Women in Films panel committee, and she's also submitted a couple of movies for our film festival. They're both very, very exciting future events for our group. So Miriam, if you would just like to share a little bit about yourself, since you're here as a current grantee.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mrinalini. I loved listening in to all the discussions, and I wish I was part of the breakout room, especially because, climate change is one of the films that I did work on as well. So I think as a filmmaker, there is a lot of intersectionality with the kind of themes you take up. I'm currently in UT Austin on my Fulbright fellowship, and my research started in India, where I was looking at the contribution of women to cinema. And it really started because there was um, a really unpleasant incident in the South, and where women came together to kind of support other women to make cinema a more sort of safe space to work in. And I saw the resonance with the Me Too movement here in the US, and sort of parallel movements where it's so important that that's sort of a safe space. And I think that the Jugaad element, drawing from all your conversations, is how do we use cinema really to have these discussions? Because it's such a potent medium in both countries, whether it's US or India, where we have the largest film-going audiences. And how do we use that? So I really hope that working with the India Interest Group and Mrinalini, we can kind of bring to the fore these sort of discussions.
Thank you. Xavier, did you want to share?
Yeah, I'll just add, I'm first apologize because I wasn't able to get in until towards the end. But as Mrinali knows, my area of interest is water resources management, integrated. I worked on it at Cal EPA, and then after that as an adjunct professor at UCLA, trying to minimize pollution. I was also a senior Fulbright fellow at the Central Pollution Control Board in India, trying to understand the strategies in India and what their priorities were. So with that in mind, my interest right now is climate change. Climate change is a catch-all concept, air, water, solid waste. What I'm attempting to do is to work with the UCLA, and they have an Institute for Health related to fires and air pollution, and to create a partnership with colleagues in India or organizations such as the Center for Science and Environment in New Delhi. So I haven't been able to initiate that, but by probably the May meeting, I will have some updates on my attempts and a strategy on what will be presented to the board and the rest of the group beginning the second half of this year. And that's the concept. The other update that I wanted to provide is I'm traveling to Europe in a week's time, Eastern Europe. And at the end of it, I've been asked to present to the Romanian Water Association in Bucharest on how we initiated the wet weather pollution control program in the US in the early 1990s, which is what they tell me they are in Eastern Europe, just beginning to address that integrated view to controlling water pollution. So I'll have my experience and the questions that those in Romania have for me and update the group on how it goes.
Oh, looking forward to that. That's fantastic.
So yeah, that's why we're so expanding. And I've connected with Professor Weindorf as well. So he's given me some of his papers and his work in Romania. Professor Weindorf is part of this bigger FIRG group. So he's connected with me and he's given me papers. So on sensor agriculture sensoring, right? The sensors used to detect the agricultural changes. So I'm trying to create the professional connections with the water folks in Romania with him.
That's awesome. Yeah, Dr. Weindorf spoke about collaboration, working for our November open meeting. And that was very informative of how he has worked with somebody in India, and they kind of work around the clock between the two of them, putting out papers and just being, and his works on soil science. I really appreciate all of y'all hanging in till the bitter end. That's
Not bitter.
Not better.
The pleasant end. Pleasant.
Sorry, you're right. It's been, as always, getting together with other Fulbrighters is just energizing, and I think we need to get Congress to attend, all members of Congress to attend these discussions and realize how much value there is in Fulbrighters being out in the world, doing their research and bringing it back, and making a difference in their communities and around the world. So thank you, everybody. And if there's any questions, please definitely reach out to me, the interest group, any one of us on the board. And if you feel you would like to contribute, please do submit an application to join the board, and those should be out in April. So I look forward to seeing y'all in other spaces. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye-bye.